Okay. All right, everybody. So this is our week 5 Therapist to Educators Mastermind Q and A, and we'll go ahead and get started with questions. So who wants to go first? Who's feeling brave and has a question?
I'll go.
Okay, great. Hi, Marilyn.
Hi. So I know I've been emailing you. I'm one of the people saying how overwhelmed I'm feeling
It's
and
okay.
behind. So here's what I'm stuck on. Well, first of all, full acknowledgement of my own procrastination. I wish I
Okay.
had a great excuse or reason, and I don't. I just have not been investing the time that I know it needs. So
Yeah. Well,
throw
and
that out there to start.
there usually is a reason. I'm not a big
Yes,
fan of
so.
the word excuse because excuse implies that you're purposely trying to get out of something. And I have a feeling that there was something else on your mind or, some barrier getting in your way. So let's just put that out there right now. Nobody's making excuses. But you have stuff coming up that's getting in your way. So how can I help you get unstuck today?
So I guess one of the first questions was one of the things you said in the first week
Hmm.
was this idea like choosing a topic that you kind of want to become known for, like,
Hmm.
and you're going to kind of stay in that arena.
Hmm.
The topic that I was going to do for this is not what I want that for. I
Okay.
don't want to be that. Oh, I
Okay.
don't only want to be that. I want to also be able to offer other
Yeah.
CEs down the line. And also, it's something that's more, I just happen to have this personal experience and specialized training and experience in this just because. So I mentioned that maybe something working with first responders.
Hmm.
'Cause my husband is a first responder, and
Okay.
I worked with a woman for years in her organization working with them and being called out to, crisis event situations, things like that. So I have a unique set of experience and I work with a lot of first responders. So I thought that'd be good, but I don't want that to be my
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. So I don't want you to get stuck on that. You can teach
Okay.
about lots and lots of different things.
Okay.
And, I do talk about that when you're trying to decide what you want your topic to be. What's your passion? What's your interest? What are you really good at? But then I also say go for your lowest hanging fruit. So if first responders is your lowest hanging fruit, you've already got good knowledge and expertise with this. It sounds like that would be the easiest one to get off the ground. And then you can figure out later what you want to do more ongoing, right?
Okay.
And I've taught CEUs that are all over the place. I'm doing one right now. I'm actually teaching it a week from Friday, and it's about supporting clients who are in 12-step programs. I don't want to be known as someone who does substance abuse, but I happen to be in recovery myself. And because of that, I get a lot of referrals for people in recovery. So I just want to kind of demystify, the 12 steps for therapists. So that's one that's outside of my own box. But my kind of passion area is burnout and compassion fatigue. So you can do whatever you want.
Okay. That's helpful. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
do have a same where a lot of referrals will come to me, or a lot of colleagues will be like, "Hey, can you just give me some information?" It's like, oh, it doesn't really work that way. It's like a
Oh, yeah.
whole thing to work with this population.
Exactly. And that's one
Yeah.
that people will ask you about already. So what a
Yes.
great training that would be to have if you could just say, "Hey, I've got this training," especially if it's on demand.
Yeah. That's kind of my idea. Is
Okay.
I've kind of figured we went back and forth about probably camped and the SEPA thing, and that's
Yes.
probably the easiest at this point for me.
Yes.
Um,
Definitely. Yeah, you're doing camped because you're an MFT, and you
yeah.
can do NBCC next, which will be great.
Okay.
But for now, do camped. That's your lowest hanging fruit. And I love the idea of doing the first responder one and just get it going, just get unstuck.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know specifically what your topic would be about with first responders?
Well, that's kind of where I'm also stuck.
Okay.
I was trying to see, like, do I make it working with family members of first responders? Because I do a lot of that too, a lot of spouses, a lot of adult children.
Hmm.
Um, so
So
not
talk
12.
through some of your options. So we've got family members. What
Yeah.
else? What are some other options?
Working with the first responders directly, so
Uh-huh.
kind of understanding shift work, how that
Oh,
impacts. So there's kind of
that's
two
good.
sides. I feel like there's like the whole relational aspect that first responders have because they are gone from the home for such long periods of time. And then there's the reentry back into the family unit, which
Mm-hmm.
causes a lot of relational issues with the spouses and kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the trauma piece, which a lot of first responders obviously deal with. So that's kind of where my head was going. Like, do I parse it out like that, or is it even necessary?
I
Um,
kind of like the idea of doing a little series, like a little, but just start with one.
okay.
But with camp, you'll be a provider. I'm pretty sure they only do a provider status, not a course status. So just
Okay.
start with one, and then you could do a little first responder series of 3 or something, and then be done with that. Have it be a standalone.
Okay. I see.
You know what I mean? Like you could break
Yeah.
those out. I like to do, everybody's different. Some people like to do gigantic 12-hour CEUs. I personally prefer to keep them shorter. I find that I'm liking, a 2-hour CEU, maybe a 3. I just don't want to talk for that long. I gotta
That's what
talk.
I was thinking, like a 2 to 3 unit,
But
something that would
yeah,
be different that maybe people, when they're getting their CEs, they're like, I mean, this could be interesting, or I've
yeah,
always wondered about that or something, but it's not a whole huge investment, time or financially.
absolutely. And when you've got those 3, if you do them as a series, then you could even maybe bundle them together as one. You
Hmm.
get all 6 for this price, or you can break them out and get each one for this price.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like
So,
that.
so of the things that you mentioned, like the first responder families, the adult children, the working with the first responders themselves, all those different options, which one do you feel excited to talk about?
um, excited.
Yeah, or, here's a different question. If that one's not sparking anything, which one could you pretty much teach us like right now with no preparation? Which one could you pretty much just do?
It's probably talking. I think there's a lot about the culture of the first responder and
Mm-hmm.
how they are and are usually looking for a therapist that has some general and in-depth, would be great, but understanding
Yes.
of what they go through on a day to day and how, that impacts them. Because they can become very protective and they don't want to share a lot because they think like they don't want to say something that might be too traumatic
Mm.
for you, that kind of thing. So there's still the protection thing. So there's
Okay.
probably the most content there.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
would recommend do that. Put
Okay.
together a 2 hour or a 1.5 or whatever you want to do to start with for that. And, once you've made that decision, any other ideas that pop up, just write them down to the side, but do this one first
Okay.
to just get it off the ground.
Okay.
Okay. So you've already decided your organization. You've now decided your topic. Yay. And your next step then is to get that camp step application in front of you, whether you
Yeah.
print it out or just pull it up on your computer and start looking at that list,
Okay.
that checklist. And then we're going to be over the next couple weeks just starting to pull together our documents. And I'm
So
happy to look at any of those for anybody. Yes. What were you going to say?
okay. For the woman that I work with, the one that has the nonprofit organization, she is a camped CPRA
Oh, okay.
provider or whatever. So, how would that work? Would that mean like if I work under her, because I technically work under her organization sometimes, like when I get called out on, on scenes and things
Mm-hmm.
like that, would I be under hers or
Yes.
at that point? But I would do this separate for my CE.
Correct. So
Okay.
if she is already a provider and you sometimes teach things under her, that's called a co-sponsorship.
Okay.
Or it depends. You may just be providing CEs for her, but either way, it's her organization over the top of that certificate.
Okay.
And what you want is your organization over the top of that certificate so that you can have control over what you teach. You get to, let's be honest, keep all the income from it. but both are perfectly valid and good. You can teach CEs under her thing and work out an arrangement with her. But if you want to do this on your own and build it out to what you said, the thing that you really want to be known for, um, I'd go ahead and get started with that process.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But if you say I want to do this under her for my first one, that's fine too. That's perfectly fine. But it's not going to get you ultimately where you want to go.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All
Yeah.
right. Great. Okay. What other questions or who else is feeling stuck?
Michelle, can I just provide
Yes,
some feedback to Marilyn real quick?
absolutely. Please do.
Marilyn, I was just going to tell you that if I was looking for CEUs, the first thing I would look for was how to work with first responders and understanding that culture, like, and understanding anything, like any background specific to that. So just so you know, if I'm looking for something to work with them, like that would probably be like the thing that I would want to learn some background on and how to support in that way. And I don't even know if this kind of applies or like what a first responder means to you, but I noticed that like in some of the clients, like I have one client that's like that works in he's a vet, like a veterinarian. And so like even that's another component. I'm like, oh, I hadn't even really thought about that piece of it too. And I don't know if there would be space to include something like that. But that was one of the other kind of pieces of like, oh, I realize I don't have a lot of information or exposure to kind of what they deal with. I know a lot of like nurses or some other like medical professionals as well, and definitely some like EMTs, firefighters, police officers. So just kind of throwing that in there. I don't know if that helps to kind of beef up maybe a presentation to kind of help you with creating anything, but I know that's what I would look for. So
Thank you. Thank you. It's very helpful to hear.
Yes, I think that sounds like a great training. That sounds really interesting. Do you happen to do EMDR, Marilyn?
I don't. I did
Okay.
brain spotting initially, but
Okay.
yeah.
The only reason I asked is because I'm an EMDR consultant in training. And one of the things that comes up all the time in EMDR is whether or not you need to get their SUDS or their distress level all the way down to 0.
Mhm.
And with first responders, you intentionally don't want them all the way down at 0 because you don't want them going into a fire with no distress. They need a level of distress. So you actually install their positive cognition with a level of distress in there, like a 0.5 or a 1 on a scale of 10. And I just think that's fascinating. That maybe your goals are different. Like when you're working with someone who has ongoing traumatic stress, this is not in the past, it's happening every day. So just thought I'd throw that in there. I think that's fascinating.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. Okay, who's next? Either if anybody has anything else they want to add, or if someone has a question of their own, or if someone is feeling stuck. You can just unmute and start talking when you're ready.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi. Hello, hello.
I'll lower my hand. I think I'm mainly just wanting to check in. There
Okay.
might be rises, but I'm realizing, so I'm in Washington State,
Mm-hmm.
licensed mental health counselor, and so NVCC seems like the best option for me. There's smaller state like Washington Mental Health Counselor Association. When I looked up on them, you have to like pay each time to be able to present a CEU for,
Oh,
and
every single
but
time you teach it, even if you did it like once this week and one next week.
that,
Or,
I mean,
or do you
if
just
I,
mean every single class, every single course is separate?
well, and also it's like I think I would apply, but it's like I don't know when they'll be able to slot me in because they have
Mm,
a lot of applications. So I was
okay.
so, but I'm also recognizing right now I'm like I mean if I do NBCC I'd want to just do the 1200, like I'd want to
Mm-hmm.
do the live, but then also the on demand for what
Yep,
I'm um
absolutely.
and I'm like so so I'm pulling up the application and looking that up. Um, and so yeah. So and I'm honing in trauma as to what I'll probably talk about most.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess maybe I don't have a question. I think I'm kind of just trucking along
Yeah.
fine.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
NBCC, I have helped people go through NBCC. It is doable. It's
Yeah.
big, but you can do it. Take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Couple things
Yeah.
that come to mind right off the bat for me that have been hiccups with them is they want current references for your source material.
Oh,
Okay, so no more than a couple years old. And they will come back for that. Another thing that all of them are going to be very finicky about is your business name that you're offering your CEUs under. And you want to make sure that all your branding is consistent. So like, let's say, for example, I'll use mine. My CEU company is Strong Blossom Inc. My therapy practice is Michelle Risser, LISW Inc. Let's say I go to an organization, I put everything under Strong Blossom. And then when they go to review my course online, it's on the Michelle Risser website. And then they're going to come back and be like, what's this Michelle Risser website? What's the relationship between the businesses? In my case, I just had to say that Strong Blossom is a DBA, but I had to actually put that on my website on the page where I'm going to be, marketing the CEUs. So you want to be careful that you can't just willy-nilly, like, I'm going to throw it on this website, even under everything has to match.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, and don't let that scare you. I didn't know that,
Yeah.
and I did it under my name, but then I realized I wanted it to grow bigger and possibly have other people present. So that's why I came up with the Strong Blossom thing. But now I had to start over. Like I'm in the process of starting over with ASWB because I have to do 3 under that name before I can be a provider. So that's why I say, think about what your business name is going to be before you fill out your application. Because once it's done, it's just let it be. I mean, I'm not trying to say you can't change it, but it'll be a
Sure.
hassle. And why start over? Just decide now, and whatever it
Yeah.
is, be good with it.
And so it'd be a personal preference whether I did so for me, I'm like my counseling business is a PLLC,
Mm-hmm.
another LLC for like say coaching or teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that I don't know? Like, is it just personal preference as to whether I teach the CEUs under the counseling or under
I really think it's a preference.
Okay.
I really do. I put it under my therapy practice only because my license is attached to it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I drew the line. Am I using my license or not using my license? Like right now, I am meeting with you all without my license. I'm in the role of consultant, so my mastermind is under my separate business. My CEUs are under my therapy practice, and that was just how I chose to do it. I really think either way is perfectly fine.
Yeah. So you have even a separate business from the DBA and that
I do. This thing that I'm doing now, like it's a completely separate business because you have to be careful when you do coaching and consulting. Like you said, you have a second business for coaching. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
your preference. I liked the DBA because I wanted to grow it bigger than just me someday.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I was thinking of doing all the teaching because like like I have 2 different licenses, the same
Mm-hmm.
law, and so I was like,
Yeah.
because I'm using them both, but I guess in my mind I was thinking it would be cleaner to do it under like the teaching
You
coaching
know what? That's a really good point. I kind of like that too, because when you teach, you may be teaching at some point law CEs under your law license. So you don't necessarily want that under your therapy practice.
Exactly. And that's what I did last
Yeah.
month.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do that. Put it under your consulting and coaching. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just a matter of, do I want this income stream attached to my license? And in your case, it makes a lot of sense not to.
Yeah.
You as the presenter are still licensed under that business, but the business doesn't have to be attached to your license. Like your PLLC is attached to your license.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that's helpful.
Okay,
Just to
does
think.
that make sense? Okay, so we got Rachel a little bit unstuck. We got NBCC. We've got, you're doing it under your coaching consulting. And what's your topic going to be for your first one?
It'll be like how to work with clients when trauma comes up in the room.
Okay.
I'm doing a workshop for coaches. Actually, I was asked to do this for coaches next month,
Mhm.
and so I'll probably take that and like branch it out to eventually do for therapists for
Yeah.
CEUs. But I'll also,
Wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's gonna be kind of trauma for your clients for both lawyers and therapists and coaches,
Perfect.
like
Yeah,
asked. So that
absolutely.
that's pretty much the main thing is trauma, dissociation, and like I liked what you talked to the other person about of maybe even doing a series of like
Mhm.
and sort of building them up in like uh more complexity of CEUs or whatever. So I like that idea too.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool.
I love it. One of our previous mastermind members, LaDonna, she's actually doing her retreat right now. And she does a little lunch and learn series. And she did an on demand course. And now she's doing a giant retreat at the beach. So you can scale this as much as you want or as little as you want. Another thing I want to mention to everybody is once you start putting yourself out there as someone who provides education, you may get some requests that don't even use your CEUs. Like for example, for me, I've had physicians approach me to talk about EMDR, and they did it under their medical CEs. Didn't even touch my CEs, but I still got paid to do the presentation. And you may end up teaching, like Rachel, it sounded like yours might have some room for this. You could end up teaching for lay people, especially if it's something that's very applicable, like, anxiety management workshop, or, it can go beyond just CEs. All right. What else? What other questions or comments, or if anybody else just wants to check in with where you're at with things?
This is piggybacking on because it's NBCC, so I had some
Yes,
additional questions.
sure.
I am not a therapist. I'm Nicole's like paperwork person.
Absolutely. And if some of you
So
remember, Nicole was with us last time, and she's the one who does the Love Your Business.
mhm,
And that one's going to be a little bit, we're going to have to be a little bit creative with fitting that into a CE because
yeah,
it is such a
so
business topic.
yes. So yeah, the current course that she has that she's adapting is How to Love Your Business.
Uh-huh.
So my first question actually so in adapting it, she wants to do it live a couple of times virtually
Love
and
it.
then make it a home study.
Yes.
And I was looking at the ASAP eligibility
Mm-hmm.
requirements, and requirement B says the applicant must sufficiently demonstrate that the organization or individual offers and presents at least two different live programs and one home study program that would qualify. So does that mean that she needs to first apply under the single application?
So yeah, there was a person that I helped with this one-on-one, and that is what we did. We had her just
Okay.
do on demand first, because you only have to have one on demand.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you can add a format. But it sounds like for Nicole, she wants to teach it live and then record the pieces and put it together into an asynchronous, which is a very smart way to do it.
Yeah, just in adapting it to a new audience. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
So
then
I see what you're saying. The applicant offers and presents at least two different live programs or one home study program.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading that. As a layperson, I need
Mhm.
all the help I can get in
So it's
making
it's
sure that I'm.
or. Yeah, it's or. Okay, so if you're only going to teach live, you have
Mhm.
to offer
And
at
only
least
one
two,
program.
you have to offer two live programs or one home study. So Nicole's is going to be home study. Even though she's going to teach it live first, she's going to do at least one home study. So I think she's going to be fine. Now,
Oh,
will she do
okay.
the live just once, or is it more than one?
It might be twice knowing
Okay.
her.
Well, then you're
Yeah.
good. You
But
got
then we
two
could do
lives and a
that.
home study. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You just pick which one she wants to do first, and do that one first, and that's 800 to get started with that, but then you can add on the additional format. So I would do
Okay.
the live first, And then because she can be recording from her lives.
Right. Okay. That was just a little confusing to me. I
Yeah.
appreciate
And
that.
then you add on, sure, add on the
Okay.
format.
So the course she wants to do for NBCC, the adaptation she wants to make is going to be for clinicians, not yet for patients. She'd
Okay.
like them to do it with themselves first before they applied it to other people.
Okay.
So I need to check there.
Yeah.
And
So
that
NBCC is great. They're very sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. Just you're in the right place with NBCC for that.
Right. And so I am under the impression that that falls under the topic categories in the policy manual on page 9 for counselor professional identity and practice issues.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay, great. And I thought even in the last section under there, self-care strategies and burnout prevention appropriate to the counselor role. Right, because it's about loving your own business. So then
let's
my next
see.
question.
Hang on, I'm just looking over
No,
this
you take your time.
section real quick. Business planning, quality control, service delivery, billing and reimbursement, fee setting, capacity building, referral, ethical marketing. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I mean, it could fall under capacity building. It,
Yes.
in my layman's terms, but I wasn't sure that was.
No, I think it does.
What they're
I think
thinking
it
of.
falls under that. I think it falls under a couple down from that, counselor self-assessment to address areas for ongoing professional growth.
Oh, yeah, because she does have assessments in it.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, great.
There you go.
Great.
There you go.
Okay.
Emerging issues in the profession. If she talks about anything that's, any trends or, yeah, I think all of those will work wonderfully. So if anybody's not doing NBCC or has no idea what we're talking about, NBCC has a big old manual that you can print out. And they have a really nice list of topics that they allow, and they are the one that's the most lenient about allowing business building topics. So I think that Nicole's training is going to just work beautifully for this. And there may be something you have to fill out that says, how does this meet the criteria? And I would use those words.
Yeah, I wanted to
that we
use the
just
words they're
talked about.
familiar with. Right. Okay, great.
Yeah, use their words. And I would say that the assessment part is perfect. And then that big, what was the other one? Capacity building.
Great. So given words are important, the current title is How to Love Your Business. How, I don't know, advanced degree sounding does it need to be? Like, did she need to change the language for people who use big words because they have an advanced degree?
A little bit. I might call it like love your business, semicolon, increasing your capacity and developing as a professional, or you know what I mean? Like put in a little subtitle that has some of those words.
Okay.
A professional development training for therapists who want to increase their capacity and their impact, something like that.
Okay, great. And then I think it's my last question.
Okay.
The agenda that we put together is rather robust. I'm wondering, is there, and it doesn't seem to give me any information in the policy manual. If you're doing a live training, can you give them pre-work so that they come to the class ready to roll?
So the pre-work would get a little bit tricky with your CEs. You would have to calculate out how long it will take, because they will ask you in the application to say exactly how you came up with your number of CEs. So you would have to say, like, it takes, 10 minutes to do this pre-work. And then they may say, how did you calculate that? Did you have people test it out? How many words is it? They can get finicky with that stuff. It is possible. If it were me personally, I would probably just not include it in the CEs.
Oh, okay.
Especially if we're talking like 10 minutes or less. How much work are we talking?
That's a good question. I don't think we've figured that out
or you
exactly.
Know what? Maybe just add it in. Maybe do it as a activity within the CE.
Well, yeah, I mean, so far it's got, the thing is, Okay, the original course has 8 modules.
Mhm,
That's what we're, that's a little tricky with
mhm.
the work, with the self-assessment stuff. It's a
Sure.
little tricky because it's, 8 modules and at least 2, sometimes 3 exercises in each one. And time-wise, I don't know if people are gonna,
Maybe you could
zone
just
out.
maybe you could have her select the ones that she feels are the absolutely most impactful.
Okay.
Do it as, like have her retool it a little bit into a live version, or if it's actually in person or even on Zoom, you could do breakout rooms and you could do some of that as group
Oh yeah.
discussion.
Yeah, no, all that will definitely happen. There'll
Okay,
definitely
yeah.
be all that. Yeah,
Because
no, it isn't that. It's just time. The only
yeah,
real issue
yeah.
is time,
So definitely
not
what I
format.
do is I do writing prompts in my CEs. And so say if I'm teaching it online, I just leave the camera rolling and
Mhm.
say, okay, now we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes and here's your writing prompt. I put it up on the
Yep.
slide and then you just leave the camera rolling. And then when they say, how'd you calculate your CE? Well, that's the length of the video. That's the actual run time.
Right.
I feel
Yeah,
like it
that
could
makes
get
sense.
tricky. You know what I'm saying? To say like,
Mhm.
well, they spent 15 minutes doing this worksheet and 5 minutes doing this worksheet. Just try to build it all in as much as you can into the time.
Okay. Okay.
And when it's
And
asynchronous, that can be different because you can say like, there was a 10-minute writing exercise here and there was a 20-minute video there. But for the live, to do that first and then come in, I think could get tricky.
okay. And so we're just really just gonna have to time it out. Is it possible to do something over 2 days if she had to?
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do they have to be the same days? Like, do they have to be consecutive, or can they be
Nope.
like a
No,
2?
absolutely not. I've
Okay.
seen people do like a series over, even once a month or something. You just have to be very clear about, is this a is this all one training that's delivered once a month over 6 months and then they get one certificate? Or are these 6 different trainings?
Gotcha.
That's where you have
Okay.
to be clear. So is this
Okay.
a 2-day, 12-hour CE event and they're going to get one certificate for it? Or are they signing in and out for 2 different courses?
Okay. Okay. And then if she wanted to submit the learning objectives and the agenda to you, can she do that just for
Absolutely.
review? Okay,
Very
great.
happy to take a look at it. Yes. Anybody who wants to send me any of that stuff, I'm happy to look at any of that. Just email
Okay.
it to me.
All right. And I think we're complete and I'll Vox
Wonderful.
if I think of anything else.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And what I usually like to do is when you send me stuff to review, what I love to do is just make a quick Loom video where I'm looking at it and giving you my feedback. And then if you're comfortable with me sharing it with the group, it can be really helpful for other people to see as well. But if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. I'll make sure I ask your permission before I share it with the group. But that's usually the easiest way for me is I'll just pull it up on my laptop and make you a Loom video. All right. What else? Anybody else just want to check in? Yes, go ahead, Jess.
I had some questions about the ASWB, and I can't
Sure.
pull up their website right now.
Okay, that's
so
okay.
I'm not specific. So my first thing is, what is it to be a provider? Like, what is the benefit to that piece? Is it just like that you've already done the applications and you just continue to submit stuff? I don't understand what that means. Like, what is that?
So to be an ACE provider means that you can continue to offer courses without getting each one approved. You basically just get approved once and you have a blanket approval that it's up to you to make sure that they meet the criteria.
So if I could follow the directions like they tell me to, I'm meeting the criteria and I don't have to send it for approval each time.
Exactly. Okay. And
So,
because you're not a social worker, you have your social work consultant and you would just run each of those new courses by them.
Okay.
Does this look good? And then you can just do them. You can just offer them. You do not have, you do have to keep records of each one and everything, but you do not have to send each one
Send
in.
it every time. So the question that I was looking for, and I can't open it, is it 3 separate courses that I have to have approved, not 3 CEUs, 3 courses, like they
3
all have
courses.
To be. Okay.
And they don't have to be through ASWB. You just have to have taught at least 3 courses.
Okay. So, and then that's what I said. So I do the pre-qual, and then
Mhm.
as soon as I am approved, however long that takes, then I can submit. Can I submit all 3 courses at the same time?
You absolutely can. Yes.
And then after that, I can submit to be a provider.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I
And
think
then-
that was all I
Yeah.
wanted. I just wanted
And
to
then-
understand like the timeline of how I was trying to do it. Okay.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, you get that pre-qual, you go ahead and you can send in all 3 at once, or you can send them in one at a time, however you want to do that. And then once you've done 3, then you're teaching those. Those are in the world. They're approved. You're teaching them, you're offering them, and you can go ahead and do the provider one. And then once that is done, then you are good to go. I can't remember right now if it's once a year that they renew or if it's every 3 years. NBCC is every 3, but I forget with ASWB. But yeah, you're free to offer whatever CEU courses you want as long as they meet the criteria.
If I give it as a live training,
Mhm.
like I do some just non-CEU trainings for a social work supervision group. If I did the live training and then I did get approved, could I go back to those people and provide the course and say, like, if you do the things now, like I can give you credit? Or is that unethical?
Yeah, that would probably, like if you recorded it, maybe you could
Yeah.
get away with, rewatch this and take a post test, because they will have to take a post test.
Right.
But with the live, yeah, you've got to have it you've got to be approved before you do the live.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, a lot of them have rules like ASWB. I think it's 90 days before. They vary, and you'll want to take a look at that. But it is like 60 to 90 days before that you have to be a provider,
approved.
or else it doesn't count.
Okay.
So with those, I would do them as an asynchronous and like, hey, remember that meeting we had? Watch this video, take this post test, get some CE. And you have to decide, is that worth it to you? Because you won't be making, you won't really be making anything off of that. So
I think it would, for me, it would just be like a nice bonus to the people that I'm having as the guinea pigs. Like,
absolutely.
I know they're happy for the information either way, but it just seems like a nice way to, give back. Like, by the way, remember that thing we did? Here's the training again. If you do it, you'll get your certificate and you get your.
That's wonderful.
It was just kind of to be nice, not.
I love it. That's very, very nice.
Okay. I think that was
wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. Who else? We've got about 15 minutes left. We're going to wrap up at 2 today. Anybody else have questions or want to just jump in and give us an update on how you're doing?
I had a follow-up question about something you were talking about. I didn't even think about with the organization. So if I have a corp in California, you have to be a professional corp. So I have a corp, and then I DBA for my therapy, which is just my name, Marilyn Ashley LMFT. But I also have other DBAs that I put in place under that corp. Should I be considering utilizing one of those for the name?
Yeah, so you'll want to look at the state of California's rules. I am not familiar with what their rules are for PLLC. Are you allowed to do education under your PLLC as long as it's related to mental health?
So
you'll have to find that out.
Okay.
And if you are, I see no problem with it.
Okay.
But I know, like, my state doesn't do PLLC, and I know the rules are different, so I don't want to.
Yeah, we can't do LLCs. We can only do professional corps. They don't even allow any LLC. So, but I understand what you're saying. I'll have to look into that. And the second question is, I'm licensed in 2 states. If I do this under CAMFT, do I also then have to get approved under the other states, or can it be like, can I also market to the other state? How does that work?
So that's where it is up to each individual attendee to check with their board to see if your course is going to be accepted or not. A lot of states do accept CAMFT. Some do not. So you can't blanket say, it'll be approved. But what I say is, like, if I'm just approved in Ohio, I know, Trisha, you're going to do Ohio. I'll just say this course is pre-approved for blah, blah CEUs in Ohio. Many states accept other states' CEUs. Check with your board.
Okay, so it doesn't even matter if I'm licensed in another state. Like
Oh no,
I don't have to meet their qualifications
not at
also.
all.
Okay.
It'll come down to whether the actual person in your course, whether their board will accept it for them. And some boards will allow you to, some are really loosey-goosey, like, hey, if it's a mental health CEU, you're good to go. You know, there are some states out there that don't even really regulate it. And there are other states that are super finicky. And you can apply for approval after the fact, even if it's not approved by their state. So a lot of people are going to be able to take your course and get CEs through CAMPed, but it's going to be up to them to check with their board and to do whatever they have to do to apply for approval.
Okay.
If you want to tack on that second state, just because, like, if it's not a tough one to do, if it's not really expensive, you can. A lot of people will do more than one state.
Yeah, I looked on your list. There wasn't a lot. It's Kansas.
Oh, okay.
And there wasn't a lot of information there. And I don't, my guess is that they don't, just because it was pretty easy for me to get the reciprocity license.
Yeah. So here's the deal with Kansas. One of our previous mastermind graduates had Kansas, and the way that they're set up is they do not require that the courses be pre-approved. So you can just say, once you get your CAMPed, you can just be like, my course is good to go in Kansas. In fact, you could create a new course today and say, this is good for Kansas. But they offer an optional option, and I think it's $60 to get pre-approved, because what the board says on their website is that they found that a lot of people just want to see that it's pre-approved for peace of mind. So it's going to be good for your marketing to say it's pre-approved, even though it's not required.
Course is pre-approved, not me as a provider.
For Kansas, it would be the course.
Okay.
Yes. For Kansas, it would be the course. So you would take your beautiful course that you create for camp, send it to Kansas, give them $60 and say, can you put a stamp on this, basically, even though it's not required.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That's the only state that I've seen like that has the optional one.
Okay.
But you could offer it right now. You could just go online right now and teach a CE and say it qualifies for Kansas as long as you meet their criteria.
Very interesting. Okay.
I know, it's so interesting. It's so wildly different. You know, that's, since I've been doing this work, that is the number one thing that strikes me, is how disconnected our mental health CEUs or mental health really licensing in the US is.
Yeah.
You know, the CEU requirements, the licensures, there's like hundreds of different options for this stuff.
I found it mentally like stressful. I thought it was contrary to the point of y'all, you know.
I know. You're yeah, I mean, it is. It's so that's why
California is so tough that, and you're used to just like you have to do so much that when something like this, Kansas, is like, is this
really?
right?
Yeah. I don't trust this.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, but it's real. It's real. It's not required. And I think Texas has weird things going on where they got rid of their requirements, but you're like pre-approved if you're a university, and theirs is kind of wild right now. And I don't know where they landed on everything because it's in flux. But
okay.
But yeah, always default to telling your participants, check with your board. So you'll be like California, LMFTs, LPCs, social workers, like, we know you are good to go. Anyone else, check with your board.
Okay.
So
okay.
I was just gonna, I'm a little bit behind because I've been out on vacation.
No worries, that's okay.
Gone for the last one, but I was just gonna, I'm in Indiana.
Okay.
I'm a clinical social worker. And so I was just gonna go through our Indiana professional licensing agency.
Okay.
I think I'm feeling a little thrown off because what they're asking for the course seems so minimal, and there's like no list of like what we accept and what we don't. Like there's nothing that I've found that gives any direction. So they just have you submit your mission statement, presenter information, like a brochure of what you're doing.
your eval and a couple of things. So I don't know if that sounds pretty normal or.
Like I said, it varies, and some states are like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was just going to start there, but I think what my question was is I was kind of hoping to be able to include like something around ethics. So like when people are going to get them and need to get their ethics in, I guess I'm just not really sure. I guess maybe I'll just have to apply and see what they say about what you do for it to be an ethics.
Yes. So go to your board. A good place to think about this, if anybody's not sure, is go to your requirements as if you were checking it out for your own licensure.
Okay.
Like what is required for ethics?
Okay.
Find that out and then go from there.
Because I guess my other thought was like if I expand later and apply under different areas, like I don't know how that would be like using the code of ethics for social work, because that wouldn't apply necessarily to everybody who would take it. So I think that's what I was kind of trying to like figure out for myself of how I would include that.
And that's part's tricky. You know, I got denied for ethics in Ohio. I got approved for CEs, but they didn't accept the ethics because of exactly what you said. I wanted to talk about the ethics of burnout and compassion fatigue and how that can lead to ethical dilemmas. And they're like, no, ethics you have to be talking about the code of ethics the entire time. And I'm like, well, that's why ethics trainings are so boring. Because like you're just going through, I mean, you know, you can't really make them creative and make them ethics. So at least not in my state.
Even like the code of ethics that we have as social workers is not going to be the same as, you know, like psychologist or somebody else who was trying to get that.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. So it would be an ethics. Yeah, it would be like an ethics for social work class.
Specific.
That might be that might be a separate one. Or you could sort of look for commonalities. I'm sure there's a lot of things we have in common, like, you know, dual relationships or do no harm, or, you know, like you could find common mental health ethics that would hit all of the different licensures. But yeah, for the most part, I would say like social work code of ethics, you're looking at the NASW. Psychologist code of ethics, you're looking at the APA.
Yeah.
Counselors, you know, I'm not sure what the governing body is for the ethics for counselors. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like
so that's
profession.
what I'm trying to think of, like doing this first one, but also I'm always thinking 3 steps ahead. How do I do this work? And I could apply to the other places.
So you write ethics off to the side with a question mark and continue on with your training that you already have in mind. That's your lowest hanging fruit that you can put together quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I have a big whiteboard and I also use Trello. I don't know if anybody uses Trello or Asana or any of that, but I also have a card that's like future ideas. And just make sure you're writing those down. You don't want to lose them, but you're not doing that right now. Right now, you're staying focused on your one CEU project, one board, or one organization, I should say, one topic. And whether you're doing course or provider status, you need to focus on, you know, that first one. Because otherwise we get stuck. We get too overwhelmed. We try to do 50 things.
Michelle, can I ask you before I'm just looking at the NBCC application, and I just to clarify that ACEP, there's an administrator that they want and a program administrator. Can I be all of those things? It says,
let me see. Do any of them have to be a counselor?
It does say the program administrator must hold an advanced degree in a mental health field from
okay. Yeah, so you'll just need to partner with somebody, with a therapist, another therapist. Well, you do have a therapy license, though. I think you're okay to be all 3.
Yeah, I could be, because designate someone to serve as the, okay.
Yeah, no, I think you're good.
It's just weird because in C it says the applicant must designate an authorized representative to serve as the ACEP administrator.
Yes. And now what that is that's almost like the secretary. You know, that is literally the admin. This is the person who's getting the emails from them. This is the person that's replying back and forth. So if you want to be that person, I think you can. I don't think that has to be someone else. But if you wanted to designate like your assistant, you know, like Patrice, that would be you. Nicole might be the program director, but you are the ASAP administrator. So that's just it's the person who's handling
Okay,
the
got that.
application. Yeah.
And
it's the person that they'll reach out to with questions.
Okay. And then the last thing I'm realizing is that they want me to have a live program already done, NBCC, that obviously wasn't for credit. And so I'm just thinking through, so the workshop I'll do for coaches, if I shift that around to be specifically for therapists, then I could do that, and then that could qualify as the one, the program that they're wanting to see.
Yeah.
The live. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
And then if I wanted to do the home study, okay.
And then you could just take that recording and turn it into a home study.
And I could put that on the application, so it could. Yeah, because I could offer one program for both live and home study.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Absolutely can. Yep. It's just up to you whether you want to do it all at once or you want to do it, you know, one at a time. Start with one and then add the format.
With that, regarding the home study, do they have to complete that in a certain amount of time? Is that time specific?
That's another thing that would probably be board specific. I've never seen that though. I take a really long time to complete online CEUs because, you know, I get bored. I've taken months.
So it's just that you don't get your CEU to the end anyway. And
right.
Then, okay.
Exactly. At the end, you take a post test. So you got to be, you know, you got to retain it enough to take a test at the end.
Right. True.
So, you know, but I've literally taken months to take.
And language point wise, as we're converting the business course to clinicians, should we use the term practice instead of business, or is it okay to use both?
I think you can use both.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think you're okay to use both. All righty. Any last burning questions? Everybody feeling okay? People feeling back on track? Know where you're going? Know what's next? Good. That is wonderful. You're very welcome. So, couple things. Just keep working on this. If you still need to hammer out your topic or anything, you can always throw ideas in the Voxer chat. If you're starting to work on your application, email me if you need any help finding your application. Email me any documents that you want me to take a look at. I'm happy to do that. And just start chipping away. You know, we've got a couple weeks. This part is probably the longest part of the process, is actually just filling out those applications, getting all those documents together. Make sure you know you're able to get into the CEU course. If you need your login, let me know, because there's a lot of templates and stuff in there for you. Okay? So you're all doing great. You're doing it. Keep it up. All right. And everyone have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. I'll go ahead and drop my email in the Voxer chat too, so everybody's got it handy. All right. Have a great day, everybody.